Bohol, Representative Cruzado of 1st District of Cotabato, and Board Member Pagarigan of Tarlac. Guest of Senator Pangilinan and heirs ito, Mayor Dennis Glynn, Vice Mayor Luel Golfo, Vice Mayor Kim Soberano of Ternate, Cavite, Mayor Junin Caberte of Sevilla, Bohol, Mayor Dexter Anclao of Inabanga, Bohol, Mayor Dave Dualio of Buenavista, Bohol. Guest of Senator Go and the Senate, the Philippine Women's National Ice Hockey Team, Mr. President, they're all with us. They're gold medalists at the 2025 International Ice Hockey Federation Women's Asia Cup held in the United Arab Emirates. Guests of the Senate, public administration students and faculty of Polytechnic University of the Philippines. Guests of Senator Raffy Tulfo, Ms. Joy Barcoma, Miss Philippines Earth 2025. Guests of this representation, Mayor Jenny Barzaga of City of Dasmariñas, Mayor Rosalina Visorde of Calawag, Quezon, and guests of Senator Marcoleta, Mrs. Vicky Escudero, Raul Escudero, Ms. Edita Coquia, and Ms. Norma Delizo. We welcome all of them in this august chamber.
To the aforementioned guests, welcome to your Senate. Before proceeding, Chair would like to correct the records since Senator Zubiri was already here. So Chair would like to correct that there are 24 senators present today. We are complete. Majority Leader?
Yes, Mr. President, we also like to acknowledge Sir Dondon Ontiveros, our basketball idol, who is also at the gallery. And Mr. President, we would like to put on record, Mr. President, that tomorrow is the birthday of our dear colleague, the gentleman from Las Piñas, Senator Mark Villar. We wish him a happy birthday, and for that, I ask Mr. President that we suspend the session for a minute.
Session is suspended in order to afford our colleagues time to greet our birthday celebrant tomorrow, Senator Mark Villar. Session is suspended. Majority Floor Leader?
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. President, at this juncture, I move that we defer the approval of the Journal of the 8th session, Tuesday, August 12, 2025. So move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, motion is approved.
Mr. President, at this juncture, I move that we proceed with the reference of business.
Before instructing the Secretary to comply, Chair would like to remind our guests in the gallery to kindly settle down and take your seats. Chair also instructs the Sergeant-at-Arms to kindly enforce order within the chamber. Secretary is directed to comply.
Bills on first reading, Senate Number 401, regulating the planning, materials, design, construction, occupancy, maintenance, modification, and abatement of buildings, promoting building resilience against earthquake, fire, flood, landslide, storm, volcanic eruption, and multiple hazards within an all-hazards approach to resilience building, enacting a new Philippine Building Act, repealing RA 6541, introduced by Senator Lacson.
To the Committees on Public Works and Finance.
402, an act instituting reforms in land administration, Senator Lacson.
To the Committees on Civil Service, Government Organization, Professional Regulation, Justice and Human Rights, and Finance.
Senate Number 403, an act penalizing any person providing or possessing contraband and those who shall aid or abet the introduction of the same inside any prison facility administered by the Department of Justice, providing penalties therefore and for other purposes, Senator Lacson.
To the Committee on Justice and Human Rights.
404, an act instituting the medical assistance to indigent and financially incapacitated patients under the framework of the Universal Healthcare for All Filipinos, amending RA 11223, the Universal Healthcare Act, Senator Lacson.
To the Committee on Health and Demography, Social Justice, Welfare and Rural Development, and Finance.
405, an act establishing the Local Government Development Fund, mandating the allocation of 1% of the total value-added tax collections to finance local development projects, programs, and activities, Senator Lacson.
To the Committees on Local Government, Ways and Means, and Finance.
406, an act amending certain sections of RA 9173, the Philippine Nursing Act of 2002, providing for an advanced education program, Senator Go.
To the Committees on Civil Service, Government Organization and Professional Regulation, Health and Demography.
407, an act amending Section 8 of RA 10699, the National Athletes and Coaches Benefits and Incentives Act, Senator Go.
To the Committees on Sports, Ways and Means, and Finance.
408, strengthening the system of filing of delayed registration of births in the country, amending for the purpose Act Number 3753, Senator Go.
To the Committees on Health and Demography, Social Justice, Welfare and Rural Development, and Finance.
409, an act institutionalizing the medical assistance to indigent and financially incapacitated patients program under the DOH, providing funds therefore and for other purposes, Senator Go.
To the Committees on Health, Demography, Social Justice, Welfare and Rural Development, and Finance.
410, an act providing for additional support and across-the-board allowance for all public teaching and non-teaching personnel engaged in basic education, appropriating funds therefore, Senator Go.
To the Committees on Civil Service, Government Organization and Professional Regulation, Basic Education, and Finance.
411, an act establishing the Philippine Senior Citizens Hospital and Research Institute, defining its powers and functions and appropriating funds therefore, Senator Go.
To the Committees on Health and Demography and Finance.
412, providing for the Magna Carta of Barangay Health Workers, Senator Go.
To the Committees on Health and Demography, Local Government, and Finance.
413, institutionalizing the Philippine National Games and appropriating funds therefore, Senator Go.
To the Committees on Sports and Finance.
414, an act enhancing the medical access of overseas Filipino workers and their families, establishing for the purpose the Overseas Filipino Workers Hospital, appropriating funds and for other purposes, Senator Go.
To the Committees on Health and Demography, Migrant Workers, and Finance.
415, an act establishing the Rental Housing Subsidy Program and providing funds therefore and for other purposes, Senator Go.
To the Committees on Urban Planning, Housing and Resettlement, and Finance.
416, an act establishing the Anti-Stunting Action Plan, Council in the Philippines, defining its powers and functions, appropriating funds and for other purposes, Senator Cayetano, AP.
To the Committees on Health and Demography, Social Justice, Welfare, Rural Development, and Finance.
417, act creating a Department of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources, providing for its powers and functions and for other purposes, Senator Cayetano, AP.
To the Committees on Agriculture, Food and Agrarian Reform, Civil Service, Government Organization and Professional Regulation, and Finance.
418, an act providing for additional rights and benefits to kasambahays under RA 10361, an act instituting policies for the protection and welfare of domestic workers, otherwise known as Domestic Workers Act, and for other purposes, Senator Cayetano, AP.
To the Committee on Labor, Employment, and Human Resources Development.
419, an act strengthening the grassroots healthcare system through the appointment of sufficient barangay health workers in cities and municipalities and elevating their status from volunteers to job order, contractual, casual, or regular employees, and further strengthening the barangay healthcare system and for other purposes. Senator Cayetano AP.
To the Committees on Health and Demography, Local Government and Finance.
420, providing for the creation of a super health centers in every city and municipality, appropriating funds and for other purposes. Senator Cayetano
To the
AP.
Committees on Health and Demography, Local Government and Finance.
421, mandating the establishment of health centers in all barangays, appropriating funds and for other purposes. Senator Cayetano AP.
To the Committees on Health and Demography, Local Government and Finance.
422, institutionalizing a unified and learner-centered voucher system for basic education to rationalize government subsidies to learners and teachers in private education and strengthen complementary between public and private educational institutions and for other purposes. Senator Cayetano AP.
To the Committees on Basic Education and Finance.
423, creating the Department of Sports, defining its powers and functions, appropriating funds therefore and for other purposes. Senator Cayetano AP.
To the Committees on Sports, Civil Service, Government Organization and Professional Regulation, Ways and Means, and Finance.
424, abolishing the travel tax on Filipinos and nationals of Association of Southeast Asian Nations member states traveling to other ASEAN member states. Senator Cayetano AP.
To the Committees on Ways and Means and Tourism.
425, an act providing for the new Omnibus Election Code of 2025, Senator Marcos.
To the Committees on Electoral Reforms and People's Participation and Constitutional Amendments and Revision of Codes.
426, an act creating the Water Resources and Management Authority, defining its powers and functions, providing funds therefore and for other purposes. Senator Marcos.
To the Committees on Public Services, Civil Service, Government Organization and Professional Regulation, and Finance.
427, an act providing an option to elected government officials to pay voluntary contributions to the GSIS to enable them to complete the minimum years of contribution for purposes of availing retirement and other applicable benefits, thereby amending RA 8291, the GSIS Act of 1997. Senator Marcos.
To the Committees on Civil Service, Government Organization and Professional Regulation, and Government Corporations and Public Enterprises.
428, an act granting salaries and other benefits to barangay officials and for other purposes. Senator Marcos.
To the Committees on Local Government, Civil Service, Government Organization and Professional Regulation, and Finance.
429, an act prohibiting discrimination on the basis of age, indigenous, racial, or ethnic origin, religious belief or activity, political inclination or conviction, social class, sex, gender, sexual orientation, sex characteristics, gender identity, gender expression, marital or relationship status, disability, HIV status, profession or occupation, health status or medical history, language, physical features, and other status, and providing penalties for. Senator Marcos.
To the Committees on Social Justice, Welfare and Rural Development, Cultural Communities, and Muslim Affairs.
430, an act instituting a property regime for cohabiting same-sex partners and for other purposes. Senator Marcos.
To the Committee on Women, Children, Family Relations, and Gender Equality.
Senate number 431, amending RA 11037, the mas sustansyang pagkain para sa Batang Pilipino Act, appropriating funds therefore and for other purposes. Senator Marcos.
To the Committees on Basic Education, Agriculture, Food and Agrarian Reform, and Finance.
Senate number 432, amending RA 8550, the Philippine Fisheries Code of 1998, as amended by RA 10654 and for other purposes. Senator Marcos.
To the Committee on Agriculture, Food and Agrarian Reform.
433, an act recognizing digital assets, requiring the registration of digital asset enterprises, their operators, and for other purposes. Senator Marcos.
To the Committee on Banks, Financial Institutions, and Currencies.
434, prohibiting producers and manufacturers of baby food from adding sugar on their products and for other purposes. Senator Marcos.
To the Committees on Health and Demography, Trade, Commerce, and Entrepreneurship, and Finance.
435, instituting a system of combat pay and combat incentive pay of the AFP, the PNP, and the Philippine Coast Guard, setting the rates therefore and for other purposes. Senator Tulfo R.
To the Committees on National Defense and Security, Peace, Unification and Reconciliation, Public Order, and Dangerous Drugs, and Finance.
436, establishing alternative learning programs and providing developmental assistance to out-of-school youth and appropriating funds therefore. Senator Tulfo R.
To the Committees on Youth, Higher Technical Vocational Education, and Finance.
437, mandating all public elementary and secondary schools to implement a no-collection policy. Senator Tulfo R.
To the Committee on Basic Education.
438, providing for the administrative reform and reorganization of the Philippine Coast Guard, repealing RA 9993, the Philippine Coast Guard Law of 2009. Senator Tulfo R.
To the Committees on Public Services, Civil Service, Government Organization, and Professional Regulation, Ways and Means, and Finance.
439, establishing security monitoring systems inside prison cells in the Philippines, appropriating funds therefore. Senator Tulfo R.
To the Committees on Public Order and Dangerous Drugs, Justice and Human Rights, and Finance.
440, defining and prohibiting elder abuse, providing penalties therefore and for other purposes. Senator Tulfo R.
To the Committees on Justice and Human Rights, Social Justice, Welfare and Rural Development, and Finance.
441, expanding the coverage of RA 10627, the Anti-Bullying Act of 2013, and for other purposes, Senator Tulfo R.
To the Committees on Basic Education and Finance.
442, recognizing transportation network companies and drivers, prescribing requirements, guidelines, and standards for the operation, providing penalties for violation thereof, and for other purposes, Senator Tulfo
To the
R.
Committees on Public Services, Ways and Means.
443, regulating the operation of motorcycles for hire and providing penalties for violation thereof, Senator Tulfo R.
To the Committee on Public Services.
444, mandating the establishment of public crematoriums in cities and municipalities and extending free cremation services to indigent families, amending Section 17 of RA 7160, the Local Government Code of the Philippines, and appropriating funds therefore, Senator Tulfo R.
To the Committees on Local Government, Health and Demography, and Finance.
445, strengthening the mandate, capabilities, or organizational structure of the MTRCB and appropriating funds therefore, Senator Soto III.
To the Committees on Public Information and Mass Media, Ways and Means, and Finance.
446, incorporating a drug abuse prevention program in subjects from grades 7 to 12 under the K-12 basic education curriculum, mandating capacity building on drug abuse prevention for teachers, teaching drug abuse prevention to partners, appropriating funds therefore, and for other purposes, Senator Soto III.
To the Committees on Basic Education, Public Order, Dangerous Drugs, and Finance.
447, creating a province called Moro Province and a congressional district for the special geographic area, Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, and appropriating funds therefore, Senator Soto III.
To the Committee on Rules.
448, an act establishing a legal scholarship and return service program for qualified and deserving students, and appropriating funds therefore, Senator Marcoleta.
To the Committees on Higher Technical and Vocational Education, Justice and Human Rights, and Finance.
449, expanding the scope of medical practice, amending RA 2382, or the Medical Act of 1999 as amended, and institutionalizing a national telemedicine system in the Philippines, Senator Marcoleta.
To the Committees on Health and Demography, and Finance.
450, expanding the purpose and application of the Special Education Fund, amending Section 272 of RA 7160, the Local Government Code of 1991, and for other purposes, Senator Marcoleta.
To the Committees on Local Government and Basic Education.
Additional reference to business, bills on first reading, Senate number 451. Establishing a lifeline rate for internet services, amending Section 17 of RA 7925, the Public Telecommunications Policy Act of the Philippines, Senator Marcoleta.
To the Committees on Public Services and Finance.
452, granting benefits to job order, casual, and contract of service employees working in the government, either through direct hire or third-party service contracting agreements, Senator Marcoleta.
To the Committees on Civil Service, Government Organization and Professional Regulation, and Finance.
453, granting special civil service eligibilities to qualified individuals, amending Section 23 of RA 2260, the Civil Service Act of 1959, Senator Marcoleta.
To the Committee on Civil Service, Government Organization and Professional Regulation.
454, integrating road safety education in K-12 basic education curriculum and for other purposes, Senator Marcoleta.
To the Committees on Basic Education and Finance.
455, establishing a national framework for the mandatory environmental insurance coverage of environmentally critical projects, Senator Marcoleta.
To the Committee on Environment, Natural Resources, and Climate Change.
456, regulating the use of treatment technology for municipal and hazardous waste, repealing Section 20 of RA 8749, the Philippine Clean Air Act of 1999, Senator Marcoleta.
To the Committees on Environment, Natural Resources, and Climate Change, and Ways and Means.
457, promoting the adoption of solar energy or any equivalent renewable energy technology in all government buildings and offices, providing funds and for other purposes, Senator Marcoleta.
To the Committees on Energy and Finance.
458, providing for a 100 peso daily minimum wage increase for employees and workers in the private sector, Senator Estrada.
To the Committee on Labor, Employment, Human Resource Development.
459, modernizing the Philippine Orthopedic Center, upgrading its service facilities, appropriating funds therefore, Senator Estrada.
To the Committees on Health and Demography and Finance.
460, providing for a national anti-doping policy in sports, establishing for the purpose the Philippine National Anti-Doping Organization and appropriating funds therefore, Senator Estrada.
To the Committee on Sports and Finance.
461, establishing a National Center for Geriatric Health and Research Institute, defining its powers and functions, creating regional geriatric specialty centers in the Department of Health retained hospitals and appropriating funds therefore, Senator Estrada.
To the Committees on Health and Demography, Ways and Means, and Finance.
462, amending RA 10149, the GOCC Governance Act of 2011, Senator Estrada.
To the Committees on Government Corporations and Public Enterprises, Civil Service, Government Organization, and Professional Regulation and Finance. 463,
abolishing the travel tax on Filipinos for economy passage, amending PD 1183, the decree amending and consolidating the provisions of travel tax of RA 1478 as amended and RA 6141, prescribing the manner of collection thereof, providing penalties, and for other purposes, Senator Estrada.
To the Committees on Ways and Means and Tourism.
464, prohibiting the development, production, use, and stockpiling of biological and toxin weapons, providing penalties, and for other purposes, Senator Estrada.
To the Committees on National Defense and Security, Peace, Unification, and Reconciliation, and Public Order, Dangerous Drugs.
465, establishing a nursing scholarship and return service program for deserving students, appropriating funds therefore, Senator Estrada.
To the Committees on Higher Technical Vocational Education, Health and Demography, and Finance.
466, instituting the Medical Reserve Corps, appropriating funds and for other purposes, Senator Estrada.
To the Committees on Health and Demography, and Finance.
467, promoting entrepreneurship by institutionalizing a financing program for micro and small enterprises through the Pondo sa Pagbabago at Pag-asenso program, appropriating funds therefore, Senator Estrada.
To the Committees on Trade, Commerce and Entrepreneurship, Economic Affairs, and Finance.
468, institutionalizing the poverty reduction through social entrepreneurship program and promoting social enterprises with the poor as primary stakeholders, Senator Estrada.
To the Committees on Trade, Commerce and Entrepreneurship, Social Justice, Welfare and Rural Development, and Finance.
469, upholding the right to life and human dignity of mothers deprived of liberty and their children by instituting reforms in detention facilities and prisons, providing guidelines for their treatment, appropriating funds, and for other purposes, Senator Estrada.
To the Committees on Women, Children, Family Relations, and Gender Equality, Justice, Human Rights.
470, an act to expand free legal assistance to all indigent Filipinos, amending Chapter 5, Title 3, Book 4 of EO 292, the Administrative Code of 1987, appropriating funds and for other purposes, Senator Estrada.
To the Committee on Justice and Human Rights, Social Justice, Welfare and Rural Development, and Finance.
471, requiring all public telecommunication entities and internet service providers in the country to increase service coverage and deliver a minimum standard for internet connection speed, Senator Estrada.
To the Committee on Public Services.
472, regulating the registration, licensure, and practice of physical therapy and appropriating funds therefore, Senator Estrada.
To the Committees on Civil Service, Government Reorganization and Professional Regulation, and Finance.
473, an act mandating the local government units to establish and maintain and operate handog na oportunidad para sa edukasyon centers and appropriating funds therefore, Senator Estrada.
To the Committees on Higher Technical and Vocational Education, Local Government, and Finance.
474, upgrading the incentives for athletes with disabilities who win medals in international sports competitions, amending Section 8 of RA 10699, the National Athletes and Coaches Benefits and Incentives Act, Senator Estrada.
To the Committee on Sports.
475, prescribing penalties for improper use of mobile disaster alert system, amending RA 10639, the Free Mobile Disaster Alerts Act, Senator Estrada.
To the Committee on Public Services.
476, abolishing the penalty of imprisonment in libel cases and providing for the venue of the civil action in libel cases against community journalists, publications, or broadcast stations, amending certain provisions of Act Number 3815, the Revised Penal Code as amended and for other purposes, Senator Estrada.
To the Committee on Justice and Human Rights, Public Information and Mass Media.
477, creating the National Film Archive of the Philippines and appropriating funds therefore, Senator Estrada.
To the Committees on Public Information and Mass Media, Culture and the Arts, and Finance.
478, promoting inclusive and sustainable business and enterprise productivity growth, amending RA 6971, the Productivity Incentives Act of 1990, Senator Estrada.
To the Committees on Labor, Employment, and Human Resource Development, Ways and Means, and Finance.
479, promoting and supporting the development and growth of the Philippine film industry, creating for this purpose the Philippine Film Commission, defining its powers and functions, and for other purposes, Senator Estrada.
To the Committees on Public Information and Mass Media, Ways and Means, and Finance.
480, requiring all national, regional, and provincial government hospitals to establish, operate, and maintain a dialysis center in the respective hospital and providing free dialysis treatment to indigent patients, Senator Estrada.
To the Committees on Health and Demography, Social Justice, Welfare and Rural Development, and Finance.
481, an act granting enhanced protection to consumers, further amending RA 7394, the Consumer Act of the Philippines as amended, Senator Estrada.
To the Committees on Trade, Commerce, and Entrepreneurship, Health and Demography.
482, establishing a business permit and licensing office in every city or municipality in the country, Senator Estrada.
To the Committees on Local Government, Trade, Commerce, and Entrepreneurship, and Finance.
483, exempting the pledge of personal property, covering a loan of money not exceeding 10,000 pesos from DST, amending Section 199, Title 7 of the NIRC of 1997 as amended, Senator Escudero.
Committee on Ways and Means.
484, an act prohibiting the reappointment of regular members of the Judicial and Bar Council, Senator Escudero.
To the Committee on Justice and Human Rights.
485, an act mandating the imposition of lesser penalties in criminal cases where the corresponding civil aspect have been settled through the alternative dispute resolution, amending RA 9285, the Alternative Dispute Resolution Act of 2004, Senator Escudero.
The Committee on Justice and Human Rights.
486, amending certain provisions of RA 7309, an act creating a board of claims under the DOJ for victims of unjust imprisonment or detention and victims of violent crimes and for other purposes, Senator Escudero.
To the Committees on Justice and Human Rights, Social Justice, Welfare and Rural Development, and Finance.
487, amending Section 2 of Act Number 4103 as amended, otherwise known as Indeterminate Sentence Law, Senator Escudero.
To the Committee on Justice and Human Rights.
488, an act providing for the delineation of the specific forest limits of the public domain and for other purposes, Senator Escudero.
To the Committees on Environment, Natural Resources and Climate Change, Local Government, and Finance.
489, strengthening the rules on the proper use and display of our national symbols and rendition of the national anthem, amending RA 8491, the flag and heraldic code of the Philippines, and for other purposes, Senator Escudero.
To the Committees on Culture and the Arts and Finance.
490, increasing the penalty of criminal negligence committed by common carriers, further amending Article 365 of Act number 3815, the revised penal code, introduced by Senator Escudero.
To the Committees on Justice and Human Rights and Public Services.
491, abolishing the use of community tax certificate and the power to levy community tax, repealing the pertinent provisions of RA 7160, the Local Government Code of 1991, Senator Escudero.
The Committee on Local Government.
492, expanding the number of qualified beneficiaries of the Magna Carta for micro, small, and medium enterprises by adjusting the asset threshold for each enterprise category. Further amending Section 3 of RA 6977 as amended, the Magna Carta for micro, small, and medium enterprises, Senator Escudero.
To the Committee on Trade, Commerce, and Entrepreneurship.
493, an act upgrading the salary grade of dentists employed in the public sector, providing funds therefore and for other purposes, Senator Escudero.
To the Committees on Civil Service, Government Organization and Professional Regulation, Health and Demography, and Finance.
494, regulating the practice of plumbing engineering in the Philippines, repealing RA 1378, otherwise known as the Plumbing Law, Senator Escudero.
To the Committees on Civil Service, Government Organization and Professional Regulation, and Finance.
495 is institutionalizing the rules on system loss cap for electric distribution utilities, Senator Escudero.
To the Committee on Energy and Public Services.
496, exempting electricity sales from VAT, further amending for the purpose sections 108 and 109 of the NIRC as amended, Senator Escudero.
To the Committees on Ways and Means and Energy.
497, proclaiming the first Monday of August of every year as the National Line Workers Appreciation Day, Senator Escudero.
To the Committee on Energy.
498, an act providing mandatory insurance coverage and other benefits for all line workers, Senator Escudero.
To the Committee on Energy and Labor Employment, Human Resource Development.
499, providing for the national policy and framework for energy advocacy, creating the Energy Advocacy Council, office, and appropriating funds therefore, Senator Escudero.
To the Committees on Energy, Civil Service, Government Organization and Professional Regulation, and Finance.
Senate number 500, an act granting Philippine citizenship to Miguel Diaz.
To the Committee on Rules.
Senator.
Majority Leader.
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. President, at this juncture, I move that we resume consideration of Senate Concurrent Resolution number 4. This is the Senate Concurrent Resolution on strengthening the national budget process. So move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, resumption of consideration of Senate Concurrent Resolution number 4 is now in order. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, the parliamentary status of the measure is that we are in the period of amendments, and so I move to resume the period of amendments using the amended copy of Senate Concurrent Resolution number 4 as of August 12, 2021 as our working draft. Mr. President, copies of this draft were already distributed to the members of the Senate through electronic mail and through hard copy, Mr. President. So with that, Mr. President, I now move that we recognize the distinguished sponsor of the measure, the Senate Finance Committee Chair, Senator Win Gatchalian, and to propose amendments, our dear colleague from the great province of Cavite, Senator Panfilo Ping Lacson. I so move, Mr. President.
Senator Gatchalian, the distinguished sponsor of Senate Concurrent Resolution number 4, is recognized, as well as Senator Lacson, to propound his individual amendments. You may proceed, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. President. With the permission of the distinguished sponsor of Senate Concurrent Resolution number 4, instead of pursuing to propose my amendments, I will just make a manifestation.
The gentleman may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. This morning, we had a cordial discussion, actually a solution-finding discussion with the distinguished gentleman from Valenzuela City, that I will no longer pursue my amendments on two conditions, subject to two conditions. And I would allow the sponsor to articulate the conditions that we have agreed to pursue or at least appeal to our colleagues.
Yeah. Well, thank you,
Senator Gatchalian is recognized to articulate the conditions agreed upon by the two gentlemen who have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I thank the good gentleman from Cavite for giving me the opportunity this morning to confer with him, to collaborate, as well as look for a solution in order to further enhance Concurrent Resolution number 4. In line with our discussion, Mr. President, it is in the mandate of the Senate and Congress as well, or Congress as a whole, to propose amendments, Mr. President. And typically, when we propose amendments, in most cases, the amendments are to improve or to add budget to certain agencies, certain offices, in order to enhance their effectivity. However, Mr. President, this has a drawback. Typically, when you add budget to certain agencies, you also deduct budget from certain agencies. I heard this from our good Senate President many times, that this is a zero-sum game. So you add and subtract from different agencies. So part of the solution, as well as appeal to our colleagues who wish to submit amendments, is to assist the committee to look for sources for those amendments as well, Mr. President, because looking for sources is much more difficult than adding to different programs and activities of the different agencies. So to hasten the budget deliberations as well budget process, I appeal to our colleagues who will later on give their amendments to also assist the committee to look for sources as well, so that those sources can be a potential source to enhance those amendments. That's number one, Mr. President, in our discussion this morning. Number two, Mr. President, with this concurrent resolution and with the amendments of Senator Risa Hontiveros to upload the matrix, it will be transparent to the public the movements in the budget, particularly within the Senate, because in the concurrent resolution, we'll be uploading the what we call the committee report on the GAB. No? This is prior to the third reading version, Mr. President, or third reading approval. So in between the committee report and the third reading approval, Mr. President, the members, our members, will be given an opportunity to look at the movements between the GAB, the committee report, and they can propound questions as to why certain offices were added budget and certain offices were also deducted budget, Mr. President. So this is a time for our members to propound questions, and during that time, Mr. President, we can elaborate the justification on why those budget movements happen, Mr. President.
Mr. President, may I just issue
Senator
a minor...
Lacson, may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. May I just issue a minor correction?
Yes.
It's between the committee report and the second, and the approval on second reading, not the third reading.
Yes, Mr. President. Yes, Mr. President. I stand corrected, Mr. President. Because when we submit the committee report, we will still approve it on second reading, Mr. President.
And we agree that when any of our colleagues will seek clarification on particular insertions or realignments or amendments, then the chairman of the Finance Committee will divulge the identity or identities of the proponents of the amendments
Well,
on the floor to make it of record.
Well, Mr. President, my view is, since this is part of the committee report, then that means the chairman of the Finance Committee has already reviewed, analyzed, and made sure that those amendments are justified, well justified, Mr. President. So the chairman of the Committee of Finance can elaborate and also reveal the history of those changes, Mr. President. Because as your chairman, I have to justify those changes in the committee report. So meaning I have to study very well the justifications and the history of that proposed amendment, Mr. President.
Again, a minor correction, Mr. President. It is the individual amendments as well as the committee amendments, they come after the committee report. Because we deliberate, we interpolate, and after the interpolation, we go to the committee amendments and then the individual amendments. And that is where the committee chairman has agreed to divulge the identities of the proponents of the amendments if ever any of our colleagues will seek clarification.
Yes, Mr. President. Not only the the proponents of the individual amendments, but also the history and justification, Mr. President.
And their amendments as well.
And their amendments as well, Mr. President. So, because for me, what's very important here is the justification on that amendments, the rationale why we made that amendments. Because like we said, if we improve an agency, we also have to deduct a budget from certain agencies, and that should be justified as well. The addition is the justification to the addition is as important to the justification to the deduction, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President, for that clarification. And I agreed to the proposal as well as the agreement made by the distinguished sponsor because the outcome is the same.
Yes, correct, Mr. President.
It is for transparency.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
So for the record, Senator Lacson, did Senator Gatchalian articulate sufficiently, subject to the 2 points you raised, the agreements you made? If so, Majority Floor Leader?
Yes, Mr. President. No member wishes to, unless Senator Erwin Gatchalian is seeking the floor. I move that...
Tulfo.
Erwin Tulfo, Mr. President.
Erwin Tulfo.
Ako si
Mr.
Sherwin
President.
Gatchalian, siya po si Erwin Tulfo.
Sorry, Mr. President. I'm being, some people thought I'm also Sherwin Gatchalian,
Erwin
but I move that we recognize Senator Erwin Tulfo, Mr. President.
Senator
My
Erwin
apologies,
Tulfo is
Sir.
recognized
Pareho kaming win,
to
Mr.
propound
President.
amendments. You may proceed, sir.
Mr. President, just a clarificatory question. On page number 5, line 27, it says, the public shall be given a platform on the websites of both Senate and House of Representatives to communicate their analysis, suggestions, and feedback